when the backdrop was the Cold War, air defence of our country and of NATO was very, very important. UFO flap and the MOD had come down to take away the radar tapes.
Now let's just qualify this again. Although you can't be certain of the actual date, you know it's Christmas.
Yes, this is 21 years ago. It wasn't a major deal. I'm perhaps no different from anybody else in society to remember exactly dates and times 20 odd years ago is a very difficult thing to do, bearing in mind that that particular date or dates of the so-called occurrences at Bentwaters and Woodbridge for me would not have meant anything to me at the time. It is inconceivable that the RAF would not have had their radar cameras working on at least one of the radars, perhaps not of Neatishead, but of another establishment. There would definitely be film of radar of that incident of that time. And
tell us how the rumours, you know, what was the discussion? Who was talking about this? Was it the NCOs? Were the officers? Or was it just ordinary aircrew? Were they talking about any specifics? How, for instance, did you know, this rumour start, or this claim emerge about taking the radar tapes? You know,
I'm not sure
can you recall
how it came about.
Well, I mean, was it talk as you went into the ops room, or was it talk over the canteen table? You know,
it would have been a combination of all those, bearing in mind that there would have been a Christmas break at Neatishead at that time for the main squadron duties, but a watch system would have operated. But for the bulk of the personnel on the squadrons, they would have come back to Neatishead after the Christmas break period, and full of the same talk as anybody else in any walk of life. Did you have a nice Christmas? All the rest of it. But within that, there was rumours spoken about. It would be my nickname in the Air Force was Swiller Baker. For some reason, it would be, "Hello, Swill. Have you heard there's been a big UFO flap on, and the MOD's been down and taken away the radar pictures?" And that could have happened in the crew room during a tea break, or a quiet period in the ops room, or on the bus on the way to work.
But from where you're sat now, although we're talking about events almost 21 years ago, you can sit there now and look at that camera and tell people that that is exactly what was said at that time.
Yes, and it wasn't just one or two people. There was lots of people talking about it. I've recently been in contact with an old colleague of mine who served on 2 Squadron with me during that period. I haven't spoken to him for 15 years. I contacted him through his mum's address, who I happened to have visited 20 years ago, and she still lived at the same part of London, and I got the telephone number of my friend Mr. X. I'm not going to give his name because he hasn't given me permission to at this time, but he remembers exactly the same rumours. And when I discussed it with him, I didn't make any connections with the Rendlesham Forest thing at the time. I just asked him if he'd had any recollection of a UFO flap and the MOD coming, etc. And he did have that recollection in the same degree of accuracy as myself. Not pinned down or honed to a specific time, date, person, etc., but a memory from a period, and that would be from that period. Seeing UFOs for the average person in the street isn't an everyday occurrence.
And
at least it isn't for me.
Yeah.
And same with radar pictures. They don't appear all over the place, and when they do, it gets talked about. I believe I've maintained and upheld the spirit of the Official Secrets Act. I've decided to say what I'm saying now on the strength of the MOD releasing information. If they chose to release what I consider to be the wrong information, I feel it's incumbent on me to offer an alternative view from the standpoint of an ordinary serving member of an establishment that would be involved in air defence aspects, and for the MOD to say that UFOs are of no defence consideration is absolutely ludicrous, because if something lands next to an air base, whether it's RAF or USAF, and that base has nuclear weapons on board, excuse me, that's very, very serious, and it is of defence significance. And I want to say, however small my part in this was, that the MOD probably and almost certainly are being economical with the truth, or at worst lying through their teeth, and are withholding information on this. And I have no doubt that there is radar pictures of the event, and possibly others outside of my knowledge as well.
3 years ago, UFO Magazine came into possession of some 2,500 hours of space shuttle footage, all of which had been dutifully recorded and logged over a period of 5 years by Martin Stubbs, a cable TV station manager in Vancouver, Canada. Since releasing successive documentaries about the footage, NASA has maintained a diplomatic silence, refusing to comment about sequences such as this, or this, or this. Some believe that NASA's reluctance to engage the UFO subject at any level is born from a deliberate policy-making decision. But, like most institutions who employ tens of thousands of personnel, mistakes are inevitable. Take the case of the vanishing NASA website, for example, as told by Andy Ellis, founder and head of the civilian UFO organisation Yorkshire UFO Info.
Definitely the early missions. I think the one that set it all off was STS-84, which became known as Willy footage. That was the one where the object came and stopped and appeared to hover near me, and I mean this was all under a distance of 2,800 feet, and it performed manoeuvres and flew off in a completely new direction. That set it off for me, and was one of the reasons we set up the website. We wanted to do a website as like any normal group, with local sightings and things like that, but with the field that I'd kind of just slipped into, which was the NASA side, it just took off from there. So that happened. Through that's how I got in touch with Jeff, and between Les Willett and Jeff Challender was where we got the NASA mission footage started, and that's where it took off from. So from 84 you had STS-96, which had, in that one mission, probably some of the best footage I've seen as far as evidence and asking questions goes, when you've got illuminated objects in the black of space pulsating past an international space station that's just been built. You've got several other orbs or balls of light, whatever you want to class them as. All we know is they're just unidentified, and these things are flying up the Florida Key coast and cutting into clouds and chasing lightning and other cloud formations. You've got NASA technicians following these stuff with the cameras, not only following but yet zooming in for a closer look. Now, to follow and to zoom in shows that they're interested in it.
Absolutely.
Not only zooming in, but they know that somebody somewhere could be watching. They pull the feed and kill it so that there's no picture on the feed that our guys are getting, but yet they're still watching. So if there's nothing to it, there's no reason to be sneaking, doing these little tactics.
And again, I'm sure you, Jeff, Les, and many other people have actually broached NASA with questions that aren't pertinent questions, or aren't rude questions, if you like. These are questions that say, excuse me, can you tell me something about what we're seeing?
I think the biggest problem we found, I mean, and Jeff and Les have worked tirelessly on it, people seem to think as soon as you get something like this, you just go and screaming at NASA. I mean, we're only interested in asking questions as well. We just want, we're not experts, so we've been emailing who we think are the relevant people and asking for advice at first, and asking questions of, well, why is this doing this, and why does it appear to do this, and why is your guy following it if you keep telling us it's ice and debris, and why are you cutting the feed off if there's nothing to it? It doesn't seem right. The biggest problem I had was when we got some of the stuff, originally 84 and then 96, I actually took it to a well-known university which is in the city where I'm from, so it's not hard to figure out which university it is, and I was doing that to go to the heads of physics and astronomy because I wanted their professional opinion. I want looking at something and going, oh wow, that's amazing, I'm just going to run off with it. I did the best I could by taking it to optics and imagery departments to learn what I could from them. And the biggest problem I had, whenever you went up against these skeptics who basically just poo-poo everything to do with the NASA footage, they were the ones who were abrupt and their whole attitude stunk. And you thought, wait a minute, I've already been to certain guys who maybe are in the NASA field, but they're not stupid. These are professors, these are astronomers. They've looked at it and they've said, well, yeah, it is a bit unusual. Why is it doing that? And we're talking about distances of 2,800 feet under the effects of a camera zoom. Something should be blurred, or something should be affected in the way that you're viewing it. So we check these things, but yet you put this to somebody who's not even connected with NASA, who are the skeptics and probably the loudest voices on this, and they just completely try to insult your intelligence, maybe get a bit slanderous with the remarks, and you think, where's this going? I mean, all I'm doing is asking a question. That all came along again because we were trying to go to NASA. We wanted to learn about the missions. People kept saying find out about the timelines. You can get the flight record. You can find out when adjuster rockets were fired. We wanted to gather as much as we could.
Find out when the astronaut went for a leak.
That's it.
Yeah.
So we wanted to gather as much as we could about the mission and learn a little bit more, because I mean, there's only so many insults you can take from certain people who are just, when you're dealing with the subject, they're trying to insult your intelligence, who think you'll give up. Basically, all you do is stop talking to them people, but continue with your work. At the end of the day, if you've already checked what you're dealing with to an extent, and that's held up, then you continue. So we went to NASA looking for answers. NASA basically don't even speak to you on the footage, so we were at a loss there. But I continued to just trawl around nasa.gov, and I thought that it'd be nice maybe to get bits of information on old missions. It might be a bit nice to get some information on the shuttle. Maybe we'd get some diagrams and schematics and stuff like that. So I'm just trawling through. I mean, there's links and links and links. I mean, the NASA.gov website's huge, and I mean, half of it, within an hour you can just think, I've had enough of this, because it's just all technical and talking about this and that. But we continued to get going, and I went to one of the electronic reading rooms through one of the various links, and in there it had documents declassified under the Freedom of Information. So I thought, well, this is worth a go. So I click on that link and it opens another page, and it had all different sections there relating to all kinds of stuff. Then there was the documents declassified, I think it was something like 97, 98, 1999. So you click on each one of them links, and that opened a different thing with like a log, a reference, and maybe like an order kind of number that you could use. And within these, Freedom of Information and documents declassified by NASA, which was probably in the title somewhere, which was documents declassified by NASA within the last 5, 6, 7 years. This was where we found, among the pages and pages and pages, there was different log numbers that related to what we were dealing with, which is the UFO subject. The feeling we got at first when we started questioning was that the way it appeared anyway through trawling through the website was it was more or less NASA thought, or if it ever came out, I don't know if it got a Congress or who, I mean, I don't live in the States, so I don't know how it worked, but the feeling we got, and speaking to various people, which some people in NASA do speak to, but I can't go into any more about that, but the feeling and the way we were pointed was that if NASA have presented this stuff, but not like gone on telly and says, here's all his documents, if they've actually presented it, then they're not classed as hiding anything.
No.
But if you find it, they can always then work a way around of making it disappear, which is probably what they did. So the feeling we got was they presented it, they're not making it public, and luckily we stumbled on it. I mean, I've got a couple of the links which drawn us to it, and you've got your usual stuff. I think if I read through a few of them, it'll give you an example of the basic kind of stuff that's there, but in with all this basic kind of NASA mumbo jumbo is the stuff that makes you sit up and pay attention.
There's a bunch of words that sort of leap off the page, isn't there?
I mean, there's various things like STS-81 flight readiness review package. I mean, fair enough, it's just standard stuff. You can go from like contract reports, telecommunications. You've got various info on headquarters employees. It's just the stuff that you'd have, and this is all stuff.
Day-to-day stuff of a big corporate organisation.
That's it. So I mean, and plus this was all under the link of documents released under the Freedom of Information. So I mean, there's pages and pages of this kind of stuff of just your average thing. I mean, other things talking about X documents. But then you start getting on to various questions about UFOs, and UFO-related documents as declassified within the last 5 years. Now, when seeing them ones, I knew already NASA had like their own kind of MOD stance, which is like the official kind of
defence significance.
Yeah, if there's no defence significance, they're not landing and running around, there's no problem. NASA had that on their own webpage, and a few of these links that were on there related back to that page, but several ones were just completely separate. I mean, when we first, especially with working with the NASA footage, when we seen this one, which was UFO sightings by Apollo 8, 11, 12, Mercury capsule, Mercury 7, 8, 9, Gemini capsule, Gemini 4, 7, 8,